Hello, fellow humans, fellow travelers, fellow warriors. March the 11th today, and there was just quite a big solar flare, M2 flare, just a couple hours ago. So this is always a good time to use that energy because it's that direct impact. The sun sends out X-ray waves which are bouncing off Earth's atmosphere, and what's usually causing a radio blackout. That means it's white noise which coming in such intense energy which the Earth's atmosphere is deflecting. So all communication stops for a moment. Earth is charged with fresh energy. So this is a really good moment to do this recording. I was working on this for a few days now, what I'm presenting you today. So naturally, the Ukraine, that's the big theme of the moment. We don't go there right now. I will do my next recording on the Ukraine. I want to build the foundation here first energetically, so you understand where I'm coming from, what I see this event to be, meaning, cosmically speaking. What we see in the mirror of the cosmos is pure. That's the thing. It's a silent lake where you see the reflection. So the real event we're going to, the central one, is that Pallas Chiron conjunction on the 16th, which is just 5 days away. Now let me leap back a little bit. That was February the 15th, when Pallas and Chiron had their heliocentric conjunction. A few hours after that conjunction, we had an enormous solar flare. This is from Earth's perspective, from a satellite which is between Earth and the Sun at the Lagrange point, which is where the magnetic fields of the Sun and the Earth meets, where there's a quiet point. That's where these geostationary satellites are. So this one is watching the Sun, and that is an extremely big solar flare which was released in the late hours of 15th of February. And you see Earth is here in the front, so that's what I try to show you here in this picture. That's where Earth is. It's the heliocentric perspective we're seeing here. So you have to think the Sun is here in the center. We're looking from here, and the Sun is shooting off a very, very powerful flare. Some experts have, such as it was an X20 or bigger. So if that would have come versus Earth, it would have wiped out pretty much all our satellites, at least put quite a few into a difficult time. Not that all would be lost for that, it was not probably strong enough, but still an event which probably would have caused quite some disruptions. I mean, we all know the kind of standardized, the biggest flare ever which was recorded was an 1859, that's known as the Carrington flare. That's in the early days of electricity and telephone. 1859, actually, telephone was not yet a thing, but definitely electricity, and there were flames coming out of generators and fires erupting from wires even, and there were for 3 days huge northern lights, auroras up to the equatorial areas recorded. An enormous blast of energy came from the Sun then. So the Sun is definitely a factor to be considered, and the Sun is a living being. That's the one thing which we all have to take in account. It's not just a ball of fire, it's a living consciousness, and it responds to our frequencies. Actually, we are the physical expressions of solar consciousness. That's what it is. So that's how powerful we are. If we can ride that wave, we can make the sun do certain things which then will speed up evolution. That's basically what we're looking at here. So that's what happened on February the 15th. Just to put it in picture. So what does that mean? So the sun sends out a huge wave of X-ray energy, and not just that, but then in the second wave come all these hydrogen atoms. These are the smallest atoms possibly. It's just one single proton basically, versus, for example, plutonium or something like that has 230 or something protons. So it's the tiniest particle, but still it's physical matter, and that is shooting away in extreme speeds from the sun. That's what then 3 days later approximately, if it's a really big solar flare, it takes less than that, as little as 16 hours or so, till that second wave of particles, of material particles, hydrogen atoms, supercharged, sped up by the solar wind, which usually is in the 300 kilometer per second range, speeds up to 2000 kilometers per second. That's why it can take much less time for this distance between sun and earth. Actually, light, or the X-ray pulse, takes exactly 8 minutes, that speed of light. And naturally, these hydrogen atoms at 2000 kilometers per second, still for covering the 93 million miles from the sun, or something like 150 million kilometers. So that takes roughly, at the shortest, about 15 hours. So whenever that happens, that's also experienced as a nervous energy, or it's just an overload of all living systems, you could say. So anyway, these characters were charged up. That's what it basically means. At 11:52 or 55, I guess it's 55, this is a few hours prior, because I just wanted this angle for you to see. So that was in the afternoon, actually in the morning, 10 a.m., and the flare took off somewhere around 22 hours, 10 at night. So this is about 12 hours prior. Pallas still has 3 minutes of arc to go to come to the exact meeting point. But what this means is that short after these two had met, charging up their new cycle, and this is a 5-6 year cycle, that's how long it takes for Pallas to catch up again after moving around the zodiac. Naturally, Chiron has moved on too, somewhat. So yeah, about 6 years. So this is Pallas being merged with Chiron energy in Aries. Now let's loop back a little bit. Chiron is really the one planet most important in our present times. Discovered in 1977, pretty much opened the door to the whole new world of smaller planets and Kuiper belt objects and all of that. Chiron is an archetype similar to Pluto. So Chiron in Aries, that started in 2018. The message here is, I have the power to change the world by changing myself. That's what it is. I am the initiator of whatever change I will see around myself. Chiron gives that insight, I would say, that if I shift my perspective, the world has to adjust to that perspective. So this is a powerful 7-year time between 2018 and 25, where we can really take the responsibility for what we see out there and do something about it. And it's happening. That's the beautiful thing. And we are just reaching a new chapter. This was a high point. All what's going on since the beginning of the year, seen in a bigger picture, is opening the doors wide into a whole new direction. It's just starting to manifest in a clear way. And more on that on my Ukraine presentation. It's actually quite a bit of a different story than what mainstream tells you. I mean, we all know that. To what degree will be interesting to find out later. But just if you gauge it against how misrepresented, for example, the Freedom Convoy was in Canada in January and February 2022, just a few weeks ago, if we just apply that same standard of inaccuracy and propaganda, then, well, I guess we can pretty much extrapolate how much we should believe of what we are told. Anyway, I just wanted to throw this in because, and this is another really interesting snippet, Venus and Mars had 2 conjunctions lately, one on February 16th and one on March the 6th. The February the 16th one, that was right in these days of the trucker convoy protest in Ottawa coming to its culmination, just a few days before it was terminated. The 16th of February, just to give you a little bit of a marker here. When Venus and Mars on the 16th of February were exactly conjunct, they were dead on in zenith over Ottawa. That's where history was made at the time. Venus, Mars, creation in Capricorn at the time. Now let me make the point. On March the 6th, when Venus and Mars again met, had their final conjunction, now Venus will move much faster again and only catch up with Mars probably in a bit more than a year. So that last conjunction, which sets the pace for these next 12 months till the two energies meet again, was dead on overhead over Kiev, over the Ukraine's capital, when it was exact at 001 Aquarius. I will show you this in my next video, show you the chart of that too. So just saying, Venus, Mars, overhead exactly, that's quite unusual. And both times in Ottawa and in Kiev, it happened right around that time when the tensions were the highest, when really history has been made, and we don't know yet in what way this history is being made over in the East. We just send them good energy. We are feeling with them compassionate. War is war after all. Nothing to make this look better than it is. This is terrible. We do not need war anymore on this planet. This hopefully will be the last one. But anyway, just giving you a little kind of preview of what in my next video is, but let's go back to what this really means. So we spoke about Chiron, about that insight that I have the power to change everything if I take on the responsibility. It's pretty much in the spirit of Ho'oponopono. Those of you who are familiar with that, it's thank you, please forgive me, I'm sorry, I love you. It's that understanding that if we truly take on intentionally the collective karma, if you want to name it that, and let me process it, let me deal with it, change the frequency by just opening your heart and receiving what is. That's what Chiron means at heart in Aries. Now, Pallas is a very interesting asteroid. It's actually was born out of Zeus' head, as the myth says, the Greek mythology. So Pallas is a powerful mental energy. It's the asteroid which rules art and science, which is kind of a step up from Mercury. Mercury is, in a way, a fluid principle, you could say. It's the planet of perception, and it can perceive in many ways. It can be seeing, hearing, processing, that's included. That's kind of the add-on. So Mercury has that processing ability of seeing patterns and being able to compare, which brings in time in itself, because only that's what differs us from animals. We compare what has been with what will be. The animal is all in the now. There's no such thing of inner dialogue, of comparing. So Mercury really is the biggest curse and the biggest blessing, both, because once we learn to handle that energy of argument and of looking at both sides, of transcending time, of time traveling, it is all in the same concept hidden. So Pallas is a higher octave of Mercury, pretty much. It's a goddess, Pallas Athene. She wears the strong armor. She has the scales and she has a sword. So Pallas also represents justice, and to stand up for that justice, and to put your foot down. And guess what? This is hexagram 21. I mentioned it quite a few times in the last few months. Hexagram 21, biting through. It is the Chinese oracle of courts penalizing criminals. It's the criminal court, and look at it through that angle. That is what's happening right now in this whatever next year. Chiron is super slow. As I say, it takes about 7 years through the sign here. So definitely within the next year, this energy is at the forefront of cutting through dry meat, biting through obstacles in an extremely intelligent way, and taking on the role of Black Peter, as we say, the scapegoat, being ready to be the scapegoat, having the courage to be the scapegoat, and being called out names because it's the right thing to do, just because it's the right thing to do. As simple as that. So don't care at a certain point anymore, because like the truckers, they lost everything. They had, if they couldn't cross the borders without putting that thing in their bodies, which, if you're really in tune with your body, and no offense to no one else, but I know there's so many who have been pressured into this, have been coerced, and these few who really didn't comply, they might have lost their livelihood. That's how Chiron brings you to that place where you have to go full-heartedly, because either you lose everything or you win everything. There's no middle path anymore. and at that brink of the precipice, that's where we usually do the right thing. That's what humanity gets to, pretty much at rocket speed, pushed to that place. So anyway, these two were charged up on the 15th of February by this huge solar flare. I played it to you once more, so you really get the idea. You see that is starting around 10 p.m. here on the 15th, and then going into the 16th, into the wee hours. So this is a compression of a few hours of observation. Time lapse, right? That's the word I'm missing. So anyway, these two were supercharged up. Now let me go fast forward here quickly before we go into this chart deeper. That's now okay. That was this chart. Just to quickly go back to it, that was the heliocentric Pallas Chiron conjunction as projected, parallel transferred to Greenwich, UK. How the overlay happens, kind of the resonance pattern. So here you have the two, 1155. I like the double numbers here again. As we are in the year 2022, all double numbers are of super importance this year, because the 11 brings in the solar frequency of freedom, of sovereignty. It's a master number. So 1155, and at the same time there was this Mercury-Uranus opposition heliocentrically, T squared by none the less than Astrea and Saturn. Astrea, again, very similar to Chiron, being of service. It's again a goddess energy, female energy, which is, as the myth goes, the Greek mythology, was the goddess who stayed longest down on planet Earth with the normal people before escaping up to the Olymp, as all the other gods already had done, as things had gone sour, as problems were arising. Astrea stayed there and helped. This is an extremely beneficial energy. Actually, all these asteroids are basically feminine in nature. That is what they all have in common. Chiron is not an asteroid, to be clear. Chiron is farther out, between Saturn and Uranus to be exact, but all the asteroids are between Mars and Jupiter, in that big gap where there's no planet, where theoretically there should be a planet, where we have all these thousands of asteroids, and these are the major ones which I have here colored in gray, the first 6. And again, this is just really the first 6 of 20,000. So yeah, astrology has so many ways one can venture off. But let's go back to this chart, which is the initiating energies of how these two characters will play out over the next several years in their interplay. That's when they were fertilizing each other, when they were truly intimately meeting. It's really like conception, very similar. It is an energetic penetration of these energies. So Pallas and Chiron, in a nutshell, this is the full realization what healing implies. What measures have to be taken? It's the diagnosis which is put forth. And the diagnosis in hexagram 21 biting through, yes, it's pretty clear. It is the moment of truth has arrived, in a nutshell. It's time for action. And we saw that also in this chart here, which I quickly want to zoom back to. That was the start of this Chinese year, the year of the water tiger, February 1st. That was 2 weeks prior to this huge solar flare. You can go back and listen to what I said there, but this was pretty obvious that 2022 would be a crazily intense year. Lots of Mars energy, Mars at the ascendant. I call it the uprising, the revolution, and naturally a war is also very Mars-like, so I thought of that possibility. I didn't want to mention it because we really don't want to create any type of self-fulfilling programming. I never would go that direction. I never would truly forecast any disaster. I mean, there will be earth changes and everybody will be in the right place. That's probably upcoming in July. That much I want to say on that note. But other than that, Mars rising here in Capricorn, and this is the saving grace here in this chart: Hygeia, health, well-being, serendipity. So whatever chaos and earthquakes, systems falling apart, it's when the earth is shaking, you lose you're challenged at a very basic level, because what you usually what's giving you, what's holding you is shaking. This is, I have spoken to people when I traveled who have been in cities with major earthquakes. They said it's a trauma you can't really wrap your mind around before having experienced it yourself. The shaking grounds, nothing is safe, nothing is secure anymore at this point when things get so extreme. And that's where we are in this year. We are just starting to get deeper into the waters here, but it will be all for the good. Now let me just go to my next quick preview chart, which is this one, and look at this chart. That's what I came up with. I only saw this in the tail end when I started comparing charts and looking at different things. This is the chart I came up with when I rectified the Ukraine's independence declaration, which was agreed on August the 24th, 1991. That was just 3 days after the Soviet Union had collapsed, that the Ukraine people took initiative and declared their independence. And at that time already the date was chosen for the referendum, which would be December the 1st of that same year. I pondered, and to me it makes most sense to use the Declaration of Independence as the starting point. That's when the idea was born, that's when the rocket was launched. And it was already then pretty clear and obvious that this would be a success story, as they knew themselves. The Ukrainians knew that they wanted independence, and naturally, I guess it was something like 92% who voted for that then in December. So it was a done deal, in other words. So anyway, that's the chart I came up with for the Ukraine, and I will go deeper into this and the implications in my next video. This is really just a preview. Just want to show you the amazing resonance with this present year's chart on a global level as seen from Greenwich. So it was actually, if you had known, taken in account the Ukraine's chart and seen this global chart for the year of the water tiger, and the tiger is fierce, the tiger is the one which is ready to go into danger zones and take on the enemy. Very Aries like, in my opinion. Aries and Aquarius, kind of a mix of these two signs. And water, the element water, very important. I mentioned it too when I did my recording on that, which you can go back to. Water is the element of emotions. So it was clear that we would get deeper into collective emotions, and here we are in the middle of it already. Just think of the two big events so far, the convoy and now the war over there, which involves everyone. We cannot really avoid being pulled in and feeling what is going on. Interesting also in this chart here, we have that 11-degree mark here in Capricorn with Venus, and that is the resonance point to that 11-degree Pallas Chiron, which we just see now getting exact from Earth's point of view on the 16th of March, and as I showed you from the Sun's perspective, this already was the case on February the 15th. That square from Venus and Vesta. Venus very strongly in a Capricorn has that connotation of taking responsibility, of doing the right thing, which is in resonance, in truth with our surrounding environment. In Capricorn is taking on the role of the father or the mother. Capricorn and Cancer both are the parent energies, and they can naturally shift. So the father can be the Cancer, so can be the mother. Naturally the mother is more likely to be that in that role, but they are exchangeable. So mothering, fathering energies have been strongly initiated in these last few months with Venus and Mars here collectively in here together. That is still reverberating, that energy, as it's here at the seed of this year. So just wanted to show you this resonance with the Ukrainian chart here. We will get into that one deeper in my next recording. So let me start from ABC here once more. So this is February 15th, the Chiron Pallas conjunction, the theme of this month coming. And why would I say that? Let's look at this chart. Let me just catch the right one here. Yes, it is this one here. The new moon in Aries, 11 degrees and 30 minutes on April the 1st. (11:55), that was their heliocentric conjunction. And where do we have you? I'm guessing, because it's down here. Okay, that's on 1654. Pallas Chiron on the 16th, 11:23, Aries. Again, the new moon 2 weeks later at 11:30. You see, something is building up here. So let's go step by step. Okay, again, this is the heliocentric alignments. Now, this same moment as seen from Earth, February 15th, when the two had their exact conjunction, that was 5:36 p.m. in Universal Time, which is 7:36 p.m. in Kiev time, Ukrainian time. So that moment in the Ukraine, those two were here in the 7th house, the house of interaction, of meeting the opponent. The 7th house is relationships. It is also competition and measuring your skills against someone else, and naturally Pallas with the sword. It's not far-fetched. And now if we look at the Kiev chart once more, just as I'm thinking of it, 23, that is where their Mars is, at 24. So the disposition was here, that's what I want to say. With the black moon high up in a pretty exact T-square to the horizon, showing that yes, something will go down in this place as difficult, and it will be openly visible. It has to do with Aspolus and Bienor. Bienor is the warrior in a way, someone who's not caving in, who's innovative, the strong man. Aspolus, another centaur, is pretty much like Sherlock Holmes, an energy which is interested in dark and difficult mysteries, revealing and finding the culprit, finding who's really behind all that, doing the research and such. So this energy very high up here together with chaos, opposing the galactic center here. This has been going on last year already, but chaos is original order. That's, I keep saying that each time I speak about this planet. In the 19th century, that meaning of the word chaos had been inverted, turned into what we think of it as a disorder, as something, as we, I mean, you can't really change that. The word chaotic means chaotic, and it's exactly that disorder which has become understood by this word. But chaos means original order. It is the sacred geometry of everything. And it also means that you can defragment anything and it will naturally form back, likely in a more complete way, because then nature, you give it back to nature, nature will reform it. It's like really like in nature. If you walk through a field of snow, you leave imprints. If you walk on the beach, you leave imprints of your feet. But minutes later, the waves come, the wind come and fill in these gaps and holes and make it back smooth, beautiful, perfect again. So it's nature is always perfect. That's kind of the implication here too with chaos. So as much in a defragmentation we are in our present world stage, we are in that. Naturally, there's no question, everything is pulled apart. No two stones are staying on top of each other. That's what it feels. And chaos here in the galactic center axis is helping us to make peace with that and to just see the enormous creative potential within this situation. And then we had the galactic center being aspected by all these consequent full moons. We are just really in an enormous phase of realigning to greater principles, to most basic truths, to the galactic call, opening our curtains. That's the bigger picture here. So when this was exact on February the 15th, I haven't finished with this chart yet, because this is another really powerful aspect. You have here, the moon was at mid-Leo, the center of Leo, and in a perfect opposition, whom again to Estrella, that energy of rolling back its sleeves and getting hands-on involved, resolving problems and helping out, cleaning up the mess, together with Saturn, which we saw from a heliocentric point of view. They are T-squaring this Mercury Uranus opposition. So it really shows that these mercurial powers are coming together. Mercury in the first degree of Aquarius, how much better could that be? Yes, that degree where Jupiter and Saturn had met in December 2020, restarting this whole 20-year, or much larger, actually it's a 200-year cycle really, which they began, because it was their first conjunction in air element in 600 years or so. They have a Jupiter and Saturn, a very particular cycle. So this past 2020, December 21st, Jupiter-Saturn conjunction at 0 degrees Aquarius was really opening the gates for a new way of living on this planet, of functioning by different laws, by different rules. The rules of Aquarius and not the rules of Capricorn or Taurus or Virgo, which were the rules of the last 200 years of extreme materialism. So we would move, we are moving, and we are in the middle of it, moving in a whole new frequency band where laws will change, where these laws which are now still in place will be replaced by the natural law. And this is coming out of the moment. This is something which is naturally here when you're open in your heart center and being in true resonance with the world around you. That's what it means. That's what the two waves means. It's a perfect resonance. And you don't even have to touch each other. You see the two waves. They're perfectly congruent. Aquarius, the sign of commune, of communal living, of group energy, of the tribe, and of supporting each other as valuable members of that tribe, each one bringing in a different aspect of it. So all these energies are at the base of what we are seeing happening in a bigger picture. Now, let's move forward, because I could say many more things, but we don't want to get it too long. So we looked at, okay, no, we didn't do that yet. So this was for Kiev, the black moon here, perfectly T-squaring the ascendant and descendant, and Neptune in the 7th house cusp, making sure things are foggy and unclear, that we can't really see it. Lots of confusion, lots of, yeah, we have just to live with that. I guess it's a good thing for that, because we have to start developing our senses, our sixth sense, if you want. So this was the same moment for Moscow. I found that interesting, the galactic center here, right at the source point again. That means whatever is coming from that place is in alignment with the greater galactic reality. I'm just leaving at that. Okay, now let's move on to the next chart, which I already mentioned. That's the Venus-Mars conjunction of March the 6th for Kiev. Quite something. Right in midheaven. The same, as I said, was happening in Toronto, in Ottawa on February the 16th. This is now the Pallas Chiron conjunction from, as seen from Earth, which is now just upcoming. They will be meeting here, 11:23. Now let's look at this chart for a moment. This is again the global chart, and what stands out immediately is the moon here at the ascendant, here together with these two minor planet theories, Centaur and AW 197, a Kuiper belt object. First of all, the moon at the ascendant shows power to the people. That's in a nutshell. It is also the power of emotions, and moon in Virgo is super good, well placed. It's the ability to care, the ability to see what's needed, how can things be mended. Virgo is a very rich sign, very resourceful. Now Aries is the energy of a mother bear who's protecting her cubs. Speak of an aroused bear standing up for her cubs. This is an energy, there's no thinking in this, it's pure emotion, and you're ready to be murdered for what you're protecting. You're getting into the line of fire without second thought, because this is the right thing to do. AW 197 is an interesting one. It has been connected to the art of the stratagem, the ability to allow the opponent to make the first move and then receive this energy and transform it in a way that you don't really have to do anything, but you're just deflecting it in a very smart manner, and it will be taking the enemy. The enemy will take himself down. In a way, he will dig his own grave. That's kind of the energy here. So it's a lot of let it happen, let it play out, and just stand there on the sideline. Things will move in your favor. You are the magician in a way. You're just holding the energy. You're creating the frequency, and things fall in place naturally. With Sedna here at midheaven, yes, it will be difficult. That's where Algol is. Algol, the eye of Medusa. Medusa being that multi-headed monster, Perseus, or was it Heracles? One of the two, I guess it was Heracles, was sent in. That was one of the 12 impossible tasks, to kill the Hydra with its many heads. That's kind of the energy. If Setna here, Setna is the one bringing that all up into the open. Setna ruling sea monsters and all the dark energies of war, abuse, and heartlessness. That all has to be exposed. So this is the collective chart for that Pallas Chiron. So we can just see, we're just getting started here really. That whole Ukraine thing is just an additional important part in a bigger picture. Because if we look at the same moment through the Ukrainian eyes, that's what it looks. And you see the black moon again perfectly in midheaven. Yes, that's where this drama is playing itself out in the most dramatic, in the most darkest way right now. So there's certainly no way I want to make things look better than they are. The galactic center, that's actually where this black moon is heading into its opposition, will be most exact on spring equinox, the beginning of the new year. The black moon will be exactly opposing the galactic center. So yes, it's big revelations. That's probably the nutshell version of what is coming into our focus over the next few months. Big revelations, very dark stuff coming into the open. Just think of all the people who are now getting aware of all these Pfizer documents of 1200 plus adverse side effects which are listed in that trial study of 45,000 people who were in that study. 42,000 had adverse reactions. Leave it at that. Lots of dark stuff coming into the open on all fronts, on all levels. But we have the energy to clear that and to emotionally digest it and reflect these energies, deflect these energies, and working our magic to transform this to a higher level of awareness. And that's absolutely possible with all that Pisces energy we're having here. That's actually just a couple days prior to full moon. We already have the moon in the sign where it will be full, actually pretty exactly here on that degree. 2656 is here, the ascendant in Kiev in the Ukraine, and you see when you compare this to the full moon, then 2740. So this is just 1 degree shy. Again, shows that yes, I mean, it's just, I don't have to say much, it just shows it by itself. Kiev, the Ukrainian capital, being kind of the fractal of that whole event, of that whole energy. All lines meet in Rome, as we say, the center of that country. This has been set in stone, I almost would like to say. You could have looked that up hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago. That's how far planetary positions can be calculated to a high exactness. So things are just playing out the way they're meant to play out. That's all I'm wanting to tell you here anyway with my astrology. That's my way of seeing it. Everything is already made. We are the ones to kind of like everything is dark and you have a one line of laser light and you're beaming that laser light slowly over that darkness. This is how we experience time. One instant at a time is illuminated and is experienced, and it is that same moment moving on, that eternal now scanning through the background of the program, if you want. So that's the Pallas Chiron conjunction for Kiev. And now if we move on, yes, to the full moon, and we again look at it from the Kiev's perspective. Again, I'm omitting lots and lots of which you additionally could see in this chart. I'm really wanting to show you where I'm going with this. So naturally, Huya here at the 7th house cusp, very interesting. Huya is the energy which allows us to go back in time and to heal what has gone wrong, to come to terms with our past. In that sense, it's a transformation of where we are coming from, of shifting the past in that sense as we look at it from a different angle. It's that understanding that whatever I have experienced in my life, however dark it was, it is part of who I am. It has made me to what I am, and this is true for everyone else. Beautiful here, Jupiter at the highest here, T-squaring, ascendant, descendant. Jupiter here in that stellium with Neptune and the Sun, which many astrologers have been raving about for months, which yes is a great light in this dark time, if you want to say it that way. It's that spiritual focus Pisces brings, the faith to that there's greater order behind the visible world. It's that deep yearning for the infinite and the omnipotent. Pisces being the ocean, but yes, then there's also Nessus, which I mentioned just in my last recording. Nessus, which is all that pathological energy, which has definitely been in a big spotlight with that jovial expansiveness here. And that's actually where I'm heading here with what I'm saying. Yes, there is great potential of enlightenment, and in that sense of what enlightenment really means, bringing light into the world, into perception, seeing things which we before were probably objected to having to believe it. It's really like a blind man. You can tell a blind man about the sun rising, but he will have to believe you. But if you have eyes and you see the sun rising, you don't have to believe in the sun rising. It's a fact. And that's what enlightenment means, really. It's that everything becomes transparent, that you don't have to go and hear what somebody has to say about something, because it's obvious. It's all there in the open. So that's the great potential with this Jupiter-Neptune conjunction, which will get exact on the 12th of April. And we can expect that in the wake of that conjunction, there will be an enormous pickup in beneficial energies, I would say, in expansive energies. And Jupiter Neptune at best is also a great dreaming a new reality into manifestation. That is what is possible, and that is all happening in a short few months. On May the 10th, Jupiter already will enter Aries and only be back in Pisces in 12 years. So yes, use this time. It's very precious, very powerful time into May the 10th, so 2 more months from here, that moment we do that recording. And this is the second last full moon of that series of 8, having an exact angle to the galactic center. This one being in a square aspect. And here with the black moon, yes, I guess we are at the peak of the intensity. That's what this shows. There's real conflict now we are dealing with. Particularly also, this is hexagram 36, darkening of the light here, the last degrees of Pisces. The last degrees of Virgo, the opposition point where the moon is at full. It's hexagram 6, conflict. Conflict and darkening of the light. This is catching up with reality in a way. That's what this full moon is pushing our noses onto. Now, I want to show you now the next chart is almost looking similar. This one is the new moon of, the full moon of March the 18th, and this next one is the new moon of April 1st. Now see, it's almost the same angles. Full moon, March 18, new moon, April 1st. And now this is both for Kiev. And this time, as I mentioned, the sun and moon on April 1st here, exactly on that degree where Pallas and Chiron, which meanwhile have now advanced here to 12, respectively 17 degrees. That's where they were in their conjunction, the 11th degree. So that's very strongly activated, that energy. And if we go now to this chart here, that is March 4, when Sun and Nessus had their exact conjunction here at 1418, and Nessus 1418, here it is. And that's the global chart, which was that moment of how these dark energies will be interwoven into the fabric of our reality through this next year. That was kind of where the root was planted. Very powerfully here, Juno was at the source point. It's all about coming together, working together, teamwork, and naturally also the struggle of human relations is included in this. The hexagram here is hexagram 13, meeting under the open sky. It's the campfire, the fire below, heaven above. It's that beautiful communal setting of meeting each other, of meeting people of all different origin, colors, and sharing and having a good time. And that's the same degrees we have here in the full moon of the 18th of March and the new moon of April 1st in Kiev in the Ukraine. Yes, that's where all that darkness is manifesting, in a way, you want to say, then rippling out and being processed. Well, I wanna stop here. I think it's already too long. I'm sorry for that. It's so hard to contain, so much to say. Anyway, thanks for joining and listening, and see you soon.